Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into an extraordinary and truly critical legal moment for music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The courtroom's quieted down since last week's, well, shocking partial verdict, but I can tell you the tension is still incredibly high. Diddy's now waiting for the judge's final decision on his sentence. What happens next could fundamentally redefine his career, his public legacy, not to mention his personal freedom.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is, to really take a deep dive into these recent legal developments. We need to understand the judge's pretty firm actions and explore the surprising potential implications for Diddy's future. We'll be focusing squarely on the factual details and, well, the broader significance of this really high-profile case.
Okay, let's try and unpack this then. After a really intense, closely watched trial, the jury came back with a split decision. You see, Diddy was actually acquitted on several major charges, big ones like racketeering that's basically operating an illegal enterprise through a pattern of crime and even human trafficking.
Right, coercing or tricking people into forced labor or commercial sex acts. Serious charges.
Exactly. So while that's a clear win for the defense on those counts, how does that acquittal actually change things for the charges he was convicted on, especially in the judge's view?
Well, what's fascinating here is that despite those significant acquittals, he was still convicted on 2 serious federal counts under the Mann Act. For anyone unfamiliar, that's a law, quite an old one actually, prohibiting transporting individuals across state lines for illegal sexual activity. Dates back to 1910.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Originally aimed at white slavery, but it's evolved. Now it covers various forms of exploitation. So these convictions are potent, and crucially, these convictions alone were enough for the judge to say, nope, no release before sentencing.
That must have been an absolutely crushing blow for the defense. They must have hoped for immediate release after the acquittals. What legal principles justify such a firm stance, especially when his lawyers might argue those acquittals should, lessen the need for continued detention?
Absolutely, and the judge was very firm. In court, he explicitly stated that even with the partial verdict, the convictions represented, and I quote, a clear and credible pattern of abuse and exploitation.
A clear and credible pattern.
Yes. And that, in the judge's view, justified keeping Diddy detained. He even cited Diddy's history of violent behavior, including some previously sealed allegations, as grounds to consider him a public threat.
Okay.
So this decision really highlights the court's perspective that the nature of the convictions, even if not all charges stuck, points to an ongoing danger.
So Diddy remains behind bars. He's currently at the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center. Quite a stark contrast, as you can imagine, to the luxury lifestyle he's known for. Sources close to the case are apparently concerned about the psychological toll this extended pre-sentencing detention is having, and his attorneys have already filed a formal request to expedite that sentencing date, which right now is way out on October 3, 2025. What's the strategy there?
Trying to speed up sentencing?
It's largely tactical. If we look at the bigger picture of sentencing prospects, while those 2 convictions technically carry a maximum of 20 years.
20 years? Wow.
Right, it sounds like a lot. But the sentencing guidelines, these complex formulas courts use, they suggest a significantly lower range. These guidelines factor in things like, the crime's severity, the defendant's history.
Yeah.
They give judges a recommended range to try and keep things somewhat uniform. We're likely looking at something more like 4 to 5 years, maybe 51 to 63 months in guideline terms.
Okay, 4 to 5 years, so with time already served, almost a year now, right?
Exactly.
His remaining time could potentially be less than 2 years. Despite the judge citing a clear pattern of abuse, some might think that sounds, lenient.
That's precisely the balancing act, isn't it? The public often focuses on maximums, but the legal system runs on these established guidelines. Legal experts generally believe his remaining time could indeed be less than 2 years. It really depends on the judge's final call and any mitigating factors.
Like what kind of factors?
Things like maybe cooperation, showing remorse, efforts at rehabilitation, that sort of thing. The expedited sentencing request is basically a play to limit this pre-sentence detention and just get to a final number sooner.
Right. Beyond the numbers, though, it feels like this case has taken on a much larger significance. How are legal analysts reading the court's role here, maybe in setting a precedent?
What's really interesting is how analysts see this. It's more than just a verdict on one man. The court has to weigh not just the facts presented, but also the broader message it sends. A message about power, accountability, and how the justice system handles very high-profile figures. The judge will likely want to strike a very delicate balance, upholding the law but also acknowledging that partial acquittal.
And that connects right into public opinion, which is just completely split, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
You hear the free puff chants from supporters, people arguing the charges are exaggerated, maybe politically motivated. But then you have critics and survivors' advocacy groups demanding a strong sentence. They want an example set. What does this division tell us about how we as a society kind of grapple with celebrity justice?
It really raises a fundamental question, doesn't it? What does this case ultimately reveal about the complexities of accountability, public perception, and, well, the whole pursuit of justice in our modern world? The tension between the legal process itself and public sentiment is just so palpable here. This case is a real litmus test for how the system handles the powerful.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, following along? With sentencing day still a ways off, Diddy's future really hangs in the balance. Will the judge lean towards rehabilitation, maybe factor in the time served heavily for an earlier release, or will they hand down a sentence that sends a powerful message about justice, no matter who you are?
The outcome will absolutely shape perceptions of celebrity accountability going forward. Think about it. How might this case influence future legal strategies for other high-profile figures facing similar situations? What kind of precedent, if any, could this sentencing truly set?
One thing is absolutely clear. The final chapter of this deep dive is definitely still being written. And the eyes of the nation, really, remain locked on what happens next in the case of Sean Diddy Combs.